Hello, hello, hello. This is a note, Heidi, to you in the future about your thoughts on winter sowing, how it can be useful to you, and how it is not useful to you. I would say, Heidi, that about 45% of the 130 odd winter sowing things that you started in 2021 didn't work. And that's okay. But I'm going to go on a bit of a rant for the moment. You do not have time, pay attention, Heidi, you do not have time to mess around with a bunch of piddly little bottles in the spring when there's so much work to do. Especially because you like to leave all of the fall work, except for bringing glass things, until the spring. Because in the spring, or over the winter then, bugs have access to whatever they need. And you get interesting snow designs. But in the spring, there's more work to do. Plus, if you're taking down beds, like taking apart garden beds or rearranging anything, taking anything away, there's a lot of work with that. And if you're building up new beds, there's a lot of work with that. Trying to figure out any new fruit bushes or anything that you're putting in, you just don't have time. You don't have time to deal with all the piddly little bottles. I'm going to remind you, I'm going to put a list on here of all the things that you don't want to try planting this way again. But for things that are good and that worked, this is definitely worth it. Because you have cats, and you'll probably have cats for the foreseeable future because they're awesome and wonderful. But they like to get into plants. And so it's kind of hard to do it inside. So you are going to have to up your inside sowing of plants game. You are going to need to invest in lights, and you are going to need to invest in heating pads and all that stuff that you were hoping to try and avoid with the winter sowing method. But there are things that will work great for this, and we'll go over them very shortly. Tomatoes are kind of, have been this year for you, Heidi, in 2021, kind of touchy. So maybe you want to stick to doing them inside. Here's a Dr. Witchy's tomato. And you can see all of there's a few in there that got frost and died. And you had them in these containers inside the greenhouse when that happened. So, they should have just been indoors. You've had trouble keeping the tomatoes this year. However, there is, I think, one you can see in that corner there. Get the focus back again. There we go. That looks like another Dr. Witchy's coming up that didn't sprout the first time. So maybe I'll have better luck the second time. But yeah, good thing you planted a lot of tomatoes this year. You should have your tomato needs covered, but you lost a lot of tomatoes and some peppers, both sweet and hot, to frost and cold temperatures. One night it got down to like -4 or -5 or something. And even though everything was protected, it just wasn't protected well enough. So keep that in mind. So I've got quite a stack here of tags. One just dropped. But, and these are tags from winter sowing that didn't work for you this year, Heidi. Now that being said, they may work for somebody else. They may totally work for somebody else. They may have worked for you in a different year, but they did not work for you this year. So, Blahilde beans. Don't plant those again. Like that. Annual bunching onions. I was kind of surprised those didn't work. Another bean, bush bean. So, don't try that again. Lemon cucumbers. Nope. Kajari melons. Nope. Oh, Tiny Tim tomatoes. Tomatoes I may try again, but I already talked about tomatoes. Chinese noodle beans. Catnip. Surprised it didn't work, but Chinese noodle beans. One thing that really surprised me, and so don't try it again, was peas. Peas did not work in the winter sowing method for me. I think I've seen that they work for other people, but they didn't work for me. So you, Heidi, don't try them again. Don't even bother. Zucchini, basil, morning glories didn't work for me in this. Cucamelons, Mongolian sunflower worked fantastic, actually. Worked great. So I'll put that aside. Zinnias didn't work for me in this method. 4 o'clock flowers did not work for me with this method. Moonflowers, I was really hoping that moonflowers would work, but they didn't work. They just kind of rotted in there. Moonflowers were hard last year. I finally got some going though, but you had to nick them with like a fingernail clipper or something and then soak them so that they can get the water and start growing. And if you don't do that, they likely just won't grow. They need the extra roughing up. And so I thought, ooh, this would be perfect for winter sowing because it'll go through it'll go through hot and like warm and cool times, and it'll be sitting in the water so it'll have time to break through that really hard coating. But no, didn't work. So this is the Mongolian sunflower, Heidi, that you planted way too early. And there was a warm spell in whenever it was, I think it was like March. And this one just burst open and started growing. And it is really struggling. Now it needs to be out of that container, but we still have 3 weeks pretty much before the estimated last frost. So I don't know what you're going to do about this one. It's had frost damage on the leaves. It's probably needing a lot more nutrients than it's getting because sunflowers are heavy feeders. But I mean, it is still putting out new leaves and growing. So, don't know what to do about that. And just so you can remember about all of the tomatoes and peppers that were lost during the freeze. The other day, there's a lot that are kind of just not, maybe not going to make it, or definitely not going to make it. Now in here, there's ones like this one, maybe this one will make it. It's still got enough green maybe, but the other ones in there actually are looking pretty good right now. So it's kind of a mixed bag here, and I'm not really sure what we're going to end up with when it comes time to plant them out. But I'm excited. There's so many I want to try. I'm really excited to try the Paul Robeson tomatoes, and we have actually quite a few of those that have made it so far. The one pepper or tomato that we don't have very many of is the Amish paste tomato. I think I have like 2. This is the only one in here, and there's one in like a pop bottle out at the front from one that I transferred. I had started them indoors and then put them in pop bottles when they got bigger to try and use those as a greenhouse outside. And it's made it so far. So, anyway, tomatoes. Yummy tomatoes, Heidi. So, out of the 130 or so that you planted, Heidi, These ones in here are about the ones that worked, and worked pretty well. There's a few more at the back that have worked. We've got wild strawberries and something else growing. I don't know what that is, but the strawberries are coming along. And this one, hard to see. There's hollyhocks in there. Can't remember if they're red or black, but hollyhocks. Lupine did really pretty good, actually, which is interesting. I think 3 of the lupine things that I planted and 3 did not, or worked and 3 didn't. So I would definitely do lupines again, and it makes me think maybe some of the other ones that I only planted 1 of would have been the same way. But anyway, lupines are pretty good. This is parsley. Oh, where in here? Parsley. Narrow leaf echinacea. Here's another lupine. You see it's kind of purpling, so I think it probably needs more nutrients than what it's getting in there. This one is, more strawberries. Wild strawberries. This one is, let's see, can I tell just by looking? Nope. Broccoli. One little broccoli. Here, this chamomile did great, but it's starting to yellow and they've got to be planted out. But again, so much to do. So as a reminder to yourself, Heidi, do not do a lot of winter sowing. It's too piddly to work with. But for some things like this chamomile, it was fantastic. I don't know what's in there. Maybe nothing. Maybe that was working and then it wasn't. This is milkweed. I'm looking forward to putting milkweed out for the butterflies, so that's one I would do in there again. I think that's stinging nettle or something in there, so I don't think it's blue Hubbard squash. It's certainly not opening like a squash, but maybe there's a squash coming up in there. It looks like maybe there's a squash coming up. So I'll give it a little more time. Oh, look at these though. Black Prince Snapdragons. I would do those again. Rhubarb. Rhubarb was amazing in here. I did 2 things of rhubarb and they both are growing like crazy. This is rosemary in here. And I've got 1 little rosemary growing, so I'd do rosemary again. I might just plant it thicker. And there's my oregano. We've got yellow strawberries in here. That looks like it could be watered. Some onions grew up in here. So that's pretty cool. They're hardening off. They've been hardening off for a while though. They could probably be transplanted out. What's this one? Looks like, wait, there's something in there. Oh, that looks like it's probably weed. So forget that one. Dill. And here's the other rhubarb. Look at that. And another lupine. And kohlrabi did great. What's that? Let me see. I'm not sure what that is right now. Let me pick it up and look at it. Oh, yeah, these are black snapdragons. More of them. Black snapdragons did really well this way. Do those again. So what haven't I shown you? Strawberries. What else grows here? Well, Heidi. Hollyhocks did really well. I would totally do hollyhocks like this again. What is this one? Lovage. Looks like there's one lovage coming up. We'll see. I think this is more hollyhocks. Hens and chickens poppies, which I'm excited to try. So I would definitely do those again. What else? That's snapdragons. Kohlrabi. Yeah. Look at the lovely sage and thyme. And along this space here, I had planted quite a while ago onions, the annual bunching variety and the Asa Craig onion. And I cannot see any peeking up here. So, because the onions, the Asa Craig onions, did pretty good here and are ready for transplanting out, I would actually probably at this point choose to use the winter sowing method for onions and not direct sow them. The radishes are doing fabulous. I can't wait to eat lots of radishes. Yum yum. These lettuce were also winter sown and have been transplanted out, and they were super successful. So that's like a dwarf variety of lettuce in the front and Paris Island lettuce in the back. In the past, Heidi, you've kind of toyed with the idea of square foot gardening, but haven't really followed it super closely. This year, I don't have the book or anything, but just the principles that I picked up online doing research. I am trying to do a more true square foot garden in the backyard, in the wilderness garden. So we'll see how that goes. But things from winter sowing that are out here that have been transplanted that also did great. We have dwarf kale back here, and here's some red lettuce in the front. And so I'm really excited about that. Here we have a red Russian kale coming up. There's 3 of them in here. So that in the backyard gardens. So definitely kale. Do kale again, Heidi. These I thought were, I gasped actually when I saw them in the winter sowing container. They were so beautiful. Purple Lady Bok Choy. I am so thrilled by the color of these bok choy. It's been unbelievable. In the front, I missed beets. Beets worked. Bull's blood beets worked. They're in the front somewhere too. And I missed them. But do those again. Maybe. I mean, beets are pretty fast. Wait to decide on the beets until you've transplanted them and see how that works. We have more radishes back here, because yum, radishes. And more radishes, and more radishes. Also direct sowed carrots back here. We have just a baby bok choy there, and another red kale there. So I am excited. I'm excited, Heidi, and you should be too, future Heidi. That some of the winter sowing worked so fabulously and will really save you space inside and get your crops out a little earlier than they would have been if you were just direct sowing them. So that's awesome. So future Heidi, pay attention. Really, pay attention. Keep on going. Keep on doing what you do. Just keep doing it. Maybe you don't know why you're doing it. Maybe it feels pointless. But just keep doing it if that's what you're doing. You never know who you're going to inspire, what's going to come of it, what it's going to lead to, what it's going to grow into. You just don't know. So just keep going. Even when it feels like, oh, why am I even bothering? Just keep going. I promise. I promise it'll be awesome. I promise.